Okay, so like everyone's talking about making eco-friendly choices, right?
Yeah.
But get this,
Yeah.
your bank account can actually get in on the action too.
Right.
It's this whole green banking thing.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of research on it here,
A
and
lot of information out there.
I'm actually kind of curious to see if it's just a trendy name or a real shift.
Well, it's interesting because it really is a broader
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
It's not like banks just like swapping out their light bulbs for LEDs.
Right.
This is really about like a systemic change in how these institutions operate
Yeah.
and even what they're prioritizing.
So not just a PR stunt then. It seems like it's all about minimizing environmental impact
Exactly.
through sustainable investments.
Yeah, a big focus is really on like funneling funds towards renewable energy.
Okay.
So like wind farms, solar installations, all that.
So does that mean that banks are like turning down clients who want to build a new coal plant?
Yeah, in some cases, like there's a growing number of banks,
Wow.
particularly smaller ones,
Okay.
like Triodos Bank.
Huh?
They've just straight up excluded financing for any fossil fuel projects.
Oh, wow.
They're really showing that profitability and sustainability aren't actually mutually exclusive.
That's a bold move.
Yeah.
Speaking of triodos, they keep popping up in the research as like
Mhm.
totally dedicated to these sustainable investments.
Absolutely. Like Triodos and Aspiration are really great examples.
Yeah.
Aspiration has this cool thing where they actually plant a tree for every transaction you make with their debit card.
Wait, so every time I buy a latte, a tree gets planted.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But okay, let's be real. Not everyone's going to switch banks just for like the feel-good perks.
Of course.
What's really driving this green banking wave?
Well, there are three main forces, I would say.
Okay.
First, you have consumer demand,
Okay.
especially from millennials and Gen Z.
Right.
Something like 78% of them actually prefer to bank with institutions that have like a clear commitment to sustainability.
So banks are realizing that if they want these younger customers, they
Yeah.
need to get on board.
For sure.
What about government pressure, though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Regulators around the world are upping the ante,
Uh-huh.
pushing for greener practices through policies and mandates.
So it's not just about keeping customers happy,
Right.
but also staying on the right side of the law.
Yeah.
Where do big corporations fit into all of this?
That's where ESG comes in.
Okay.
Environmental, social, and governance.
Right.
Companies are realizing that adopting strong ESG principles is good for attracting investors.
So companies with good ESG ratings are seen as less risky, which means investors are more likely to invest in them.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Okay.
Companies get access to capital, investors feel good about where their money is going,
Yeah.
and the planet benefits.
So we've got consumers demanding it, governments pushing for it, and corporations realizing it's good business.
Sounds
So
good.
big changes are coming to the financial world. But let's be honest, there are always two sides to every story.
For sure.
What are some of the downsides or challenges?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is greenwashing.
Greenwashing.
Yeah.
Is that like when companies put an eco-friendly label on a product that's actually terrible for the environment?
Exactly. It's when banks try to capitalize on this whole trend
Uh-huh.
without making any real changes.
Got it.
It's all about appearances.
So how can you even tell if a bank is actually walking the walk?
Transparency is key.
Okay.
Look for banks that clearly outline their investment policies, disclose their carbon footprint,
Yeah.
and like have their sustainability claims verified by a third party.
So do your homework.
Yeah.
What other red flags are there?
Another challenge is accessibility.
Okay.
Green banking is gaining a lot of momentum in developed countries,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still limited in many parts of the world.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Building the infrastructure for it takes time.
Exactly. And even in areas where it is available,
Mhm.
there can be concerns about affordability.
Okay.
Smaller banks, in particular, might struggle to offer competitive rates and services
Right.
while also meeting their sustainability goals.
So green banking could become like a luxury?
It's a valid concern,
Yeah.
and it highlights the need for policies and initiatives that actually make green banking more accessible.
All right. So we've got greenwashing accessibility issues and potential affordability barriers. Those are some pretty significant challenges.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about the benefits of green banking.
Sure.
Besides the obvious feel-good factor, are there any tangible advantages?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
One of the most compelling is the potential for higher returns.
Really?
Yeah, studies show that ESG-aligned investments may actually outperform traditional portfolios in the long run.
So you're saying investing in companies with strong ESG practices could actually make me more money?
Yeah, that's what the research is suggesting.
I thought sustainability usually came at a cost.
It's a common misconception. Companies with strong ESG practices tend to be more resilient, better managed, and less exposed to risks, which can actually translate into higher returns for investors.
So it could be a smart financial move.
Precisely. And for businesses, there's the added benefit of brand alignment.
Oh, right.
When companies embrace green financing, they're sending a clear message to their customers and investors.
Yeah, and in today's world, that's a major selling point.
Absolutely.
So it's a win-win for everyone.
In theory, yes.
The planet, the business, the consumer.
But like we discussed, it's important to be aware of the challenges and approach green banking carefully.
Okay, so we've talked about what it is, the forces driving it, the benefits, the challenges. I'm curious about the bigger picture now.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for green banking?
That's where things get really exciting. You're on the cusp of some groundbreaking developments
All right.
that could revolutionize how we think about finance and sustainability.
Okay.
And we'll get into that a little later.
Sounds good. So we were about to get into the future of green banking,
Yeah.
and you were saying things are about to get really exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me more.
Well, imagine a world where your banking app not only manages your money,
Mm-hmm.
but also helps you track and offset your carbon footprint.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the possibilities we have on the horizon
Wow.
through integrating technology and AI into green banking.
AI in banking. I thought that was mostly used for fraud detection and stuff.
Well, it's also about using AI to make better informed investment decisions.
Okay.
So it's like this AI can go through all this data and assess the environmental impact
Okay.
of potential investments
I see.
and allows the banks to choose projects that are both profitable and sustainable.
So instead of just relying on like a gut feeling, banks can actually use AI to predict the long-term footprint of something like a construction project.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds really powerful.
Yeah, it's all about moving towards data-driven decision-making in terms of sustainability. And it goes beyond just investments.
Okay.
AI can also be used to optimize the bank's own operations,
Oh, interesting.
reducing their environmental impact
Okay.
through things like energy-efficient buildings and paperless transactions.
So AI is a big part of it.
Yeah.
What else is coming up in the future of green banking?
Another really cool development is integrating carbon credits.
Okay.
Imagine a scenario where your banking app gives you an option to buy carbon offsets
Right.
that compensate for your own personal carbon footprint.
So if I take a flight for vacation,
Yeah.
I could just buy some carbon credits to neutralize those emissions.
That's the idea.
Interesting.
It's about making it more accessible and integrated into our everyday lives.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But what about the global picture?
Yeah.
What about international cooperation?
Global collaboration is going to be essential for the future of green banking.
Okay.
Just imagine the impact when all these institutions from around the world
Yeah.
can pool their resources and expertise to actually combat climate change.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah, we're talking about unlocking trillions of dollars for these large-scale green initiatives.
So a coordinated global effort
Yeah, exactly.
instead of everyone doing their own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They can share best practices,
Uh-huh.
develop common standards,
Okay.
and create this unified approach to sustainable finance.
Yeah. And that could also help address the accessibility issues we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. If they're collaborating globally,
Uh-huh.
they can share that knowledge and resources to make green banking more accessible in developing countries.
Awesome.
It's essential for creating a more inclusive and equitable landscape for this.
Okay, so AI carbon credits, global collaboration. It sounds like there's a ton of potential.
Yeah.
But as these new technologies and approaches emerge, are there any pitfalls or challenges that we should watch out for?
Well, one of the big concerns with AI is the potential for bias. If the data that's used to train the algorithms is skewed or incomplete,
Right.
it could lead to biased investment decisions.
Got it.
So it's about making sure the tech is used responsibly and ethically.
Right. So it's not just about having the technology, but using it correctly.
Exactly.
What about carbon credits?
Yeah.
Any issues with relying on those as a solution?
There's always the risk of greenwashing.
Right.
Some companies might just use carbon offsets as a way to avoid actually reducing their own emissions.
So it's not a perfect solution.
No, definitely not.
Got it.
It's important to make sure those schemes are transparent and verifiable and actually lead to some reduction in greenhouse gases.
So we need to be careful about how they're used.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then with global collaboration,
Yeah.
one of the biggest challenges is coordinating efforts across all these different countries.
Uh-huh.
with their regulations and priorities.
It can be tough to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, it requires strong leadership and a sense of urgency to overcome those obstacles.
Yeah.
But the rewards are worth it.
So there are definitely challenges ahead, but the future of green banking seems really promising.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
What does all of this mean for the everyday person listening?
Yeah.
How can they actually, incorporate green banking into their own lives?
That's a great question, and we'll get into that as we wrap up our deep dive.
So we've talked about, what green banking is, why it's important,
Yeah.
and even what the future might look like.
Mm-hmm.
But, the big question is, what does this mean for me right now?
Yeah. Well, you have more power than you might realize.
Okay.
Every financial decision you make can actually contribute to a more sustainable future.
I get that, but it's easy to feel like my choices don't really matter that much.
Right.
It's such a huge system.
Yeah. But all those individual choices actually add up.
Okay.
Consumer demand is one of the most powerful forces in any industry,
Uh-huh.
and banking is no exception.
So if enough of us start demanding these sustainable options, banks will have to listen.
Exactly. It's about sending that message.
Okay. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
I'm ready to make my money matter.
Great.
What can I actually do?
Well, first do your research.
Okay.
Look into green banks in your area
Mm-hmm.
and explore those ESG-focused investment options.
Okay.
There are a lot of resources online to help you find the right thing for you.
What about my current bank?
Yeah.
Should I just switch to a green bank?
You don't necessarily have to switch right away.
Okay.
It's worth talking to them about their sustainability practices.
Okay.
Ask about their investment policies, their carbon footprint.
Yeah.
You might be surprised.
So put the pressure on.
Right.
What if they're not doing enough, though?
Yeah.
Or what if there aren't any good options where I live?
You can start with small changes.
Okay.
Maybe allocate some of your savings to an ESG fund
Uh-huh.
or switch to a more sustainable bank for your everyday transactions.
So it's about taking those first steps
I-
and slowly aligning my finances with my values.
Yeah. And remember, every little bit helps.
Okay.
By making those choices about where you put your money,
Yeah.
you're contributing to that movement
Awesome.
for a more sustainable financial system.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into green banking.
Yeah.
Hopefully you found it informative and maybe even inspiring.
Yeah,
Go out there and make your money matter.
absolutely.